The fourth lecture in this Clean Technology series explores international frameworks and standards for clean technology, discussing energy policies and context from global to regional and national levels. For your assessments, placing an evaluation of your chosen clean technology within the wider policy context will help you develop your analysis of the feasibility of realising its potential, and for you to make recommendations for what policy drivers are needed. Research, technologies, and individual projects and programs all develop and are applied within the wider context of society, and it is policies and legislation which create the legal, political, and economic frameworks. International climate change agreements, for example, commit the United Kingdom to reductions in carbon emissions, and the UK government must then put in place policies to make those reductions actually happen in practice. Policies can drive those reductions through financial incentives influencing private business through the market, through legal requirements to act, and through public bodies establishing programs or projects delivering or coordinating change. There are a number of main concerns that drive energy policies. Climate change and reduction in carbon emissions may be the most prominent in public discourse, but energy security and energy affordability also play a big role. Recent US energy policy favouring shale gas extraction by hydraulic fracking, for example, has been driven partly by an explicit aim to reduce dependence on foreign oil imports. What sectors or spheres of activity within society do you think are strongly influenced by energy policy? How important do you think energy policies are, and for what areas within energy production, domestic energy use, or industry and manufacturing? How about within the transport, built environment, and agricultural sectors? Within these sectors, what issues might you consider? In a built environment, for example, energy efficiency reduces energy bills. But how does that help low-income families if energy-efficient buildings cost more to buy or rent? Remember to think about life cycle analysis. What about the embodied carbon emissions of construction in the first place? What climate or energy-related policies can you think of at the UK, European Union and global levels? We will discuss your suggestions and their relevance for clean technologies and sustainability. As an example, the first internationally agreed global policy on climate change action, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, came out of the UN Conference on Environment and Development, better known as the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, in 1992. 5 years later, the Kyoto Protocol of 1997 made the first commitments of nations to reduce carbon emissions, and the 2015 Paris Agreement marked a major step forward, committing countries to plan and report on their agreed contributions to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The United States withdrew from the Paris Agreement in 2017 under the leadership of Donald Trump, who explicitly argued for expanded use of fossil fuels to benefit the US economy, taking precedence over efforts to tackle climate change. Discussing the implications of this helps us appreciate the importance of the policy context for both sustainability generally and renewable energies specifically. We will discuss the CRC Energy Efficiency Scheme in the UK, formerly known as the Carbon Reduction Commitment, which applies to all private and public organisations that use over 6,000 megawatt hours equivalent of energy annually. That includes Keele University, which in the 2012-13 compliance year reported 12,086 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent and paid, at £12 per tonne, £145,000. Highlighting our ever-changing policy landscape, however, the CRC will be replaced following the 2018-19 compliance year by an administratively simpler increase in the climate change levy paid directly on energy bills. What effects do charges such as this have? Who pays for it? Is it genuinely a motivator for increasing efficiency? What role do you think this might have had in sustainable energy development around the university, such as SEND, the Smart Energy Network Demonstrator? In the full lecture, we will consider UK transport policies as a case study. We will challenge you to consider social dimensions through discussion of the UK Government's Office for Low Emission Vehicles plug-in car grant scheme that began in 2011. In particular, funding for a charge point at home most obviously excludes lower income people who do not own their own home. But it is also usable only by people who have off-road parking, excluding the typical terraces with on-street parking that dominate lower cost housing. Does this make it a subsidy for the rich at the expense of the poor? In evaluating your chosen clean technology, remember to consider criteria from across the environmental, economic and social pillars. Clean technologies offer sustainability much more than simply reducing our carbon footprint.